Hi, I'm Renee Smith.
And I'm Tammy Fellers, and we're education specialists here at ESDAC in Hutchinson, Kansas.
Today we're here to talk to you about two of our newest decks of cards, and they are called Relational Thinking 1 and Relational Thinking 2. And the reason these two decks are really important is because the research tells us that children don't always, because of the way we've taught arithmetic, think about numbers relationally. They don't think about what's on one side of the equal sign having to be the same as what's on the other side of the equal sign. They think that the equal sign means put an answer here.
Right.
And so one of the things that we can do a better job of as we teach arithmetic is teach that relational thinking so that it leads children to have a better understanding when they get to algebra. So we've developed these two sets of cards.
Well, and we really want to help kids understand that equals doesn't mean answer.
Right.
The very next thing is the answer. We want to teach that it means it has the same value as. The left side has the same value as the right side. They're balanced. All of those type of words. Equal doesn't mean answer.
So in our first deck of cards, we start out very simply. These can be used with our youngest children. As a matter of fact, in classrooms across the country, they're being used with children in the very lower primary grades. And as you see, they don't seem very complicated at first.
So the first card I'm going to ask Renee is true, false, justify your answer.
Okay, and the card says 7 equals 7 plus 0. And I would say that is true because whenever you add 0 to anything, it stays the same. However, lots of children don't have that understanding. They think that when we add something, the answer is always going to get bigger or the number is always going to get larger. So some children will actually say that that's a false statement.
So you can see the card on your screen, and the next card I have for Renee, still going to ask her to justify her answer.
Okay, and it's still a true or false, and it says 6 plus 4 equals 7 plus 3. And in this case, because I know that 6 is 1 less than 7, but 4 is 1 greater than 3, I would say that that is true. Some children will answer that as true as well, but they will have told us their rationale was because they added 6 and 4 and 7 and 3 and got 10 on both sides. We want to start to have kids look at the relationship between the numbers on the left side of the equal sign and the right side of the equal sign.
And that they don't always have to do the math,
Right,
if you will.
right.
So the next card, she's filling in the blank.
And so this time, because I have 11 plus an unknown is equal to 14 plus 7, I'm going to think about what 11 and 14 have in common. And I know that 11 is actually 3 less than 14, so I know that my number has to be 3 greater than 7, so I would say 10. Again, some children will do the addition of the right-hand side and subtract what's on the left to fill in that blank, but that's what we want to help them start to understand, that they don't have to do the computation if they'll start to pay attention to the relationship between the numbers. Those numbers were all fairly small, and in our first deck, they remain single and double digits throughout, although they go beyond addition. What else is included there, Tammy?
There's also subtraction, still with the relational thinking piece. There's also properties. Is 5 plus 3 the same thing as 3 plus 5? So we got into that commutative property as well. But the number size is really double digit and even the lower end of our double digits to help those kids early on with that relational thinking.
The second deck then increases in difficulty, but part of that is, again, to not have kids having to compute those larger numbers, but again, to start to pay attention to the relationship between. We still have some of those true and false cards. We have some of the open number sentences, but we get into double digit, triple digit, even some four-digit numbers. Then we end up with some multiplication and some larger subtraction, and what we have found is relational thinking is fairly simple once you get onto it with addition, but it's a little trickier with subtraction, but it can still be done. So we want kids to think about that. We also, in this deck, deal with decimals, as well as the properties again. And then we also make a big emphasis in this second deck of moving from that blank for the unknown to the variable concept, so that again we're leading into early algebraic reasoning, and so we include the variable. So if I were to show Tammy this card, which has some variables and an answer on the other side, what how would you solve for that variable, and what would your justification be?
Well, I know there are 4 items added up. Those 4 items have to be the same thing, and they have to total 16. So 4 times is 16. We also know that some students will automatically go, when they see those 4 B's, hey, there's 4 B's there, and 4 times what number is 16? Oh, it's 4 times 4. So there'll be both of those explanations right away. And we really won't get into the inverse operation at this point. It's still about the multiplication.
As opposed to the way we all learn to solve the algebraic equation.
Right.
So that's kind of what these 2 decks are about. As always, we've included a task card with our 2 decks that includes instructions, different extension activities, answers, as well as accountability sheets for students to use if this is being done during a station. We highly encourage that this particular deck, just like many of our other decks, but especially these 2 decks, be done whole group prior to them being in a station, so that children start to understand we're not about the computation here, we're about thinking relationally.
Right. We're not about lining up the ones column and adding the ones and then the tens and then the hundreds. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but we're really wanting to talk about that relational piece, the left side of the equal sign versus the right side. It's not equals an answer. Thank you for joining us today.